this is Ben from Ben's Kitchen and Garden, and I thought I'd show you a quick video on a few bread shaping techniques, primarily based around the round bun shape, or in this case it's going to be bagels as well. So this is a bagel dough here that's sat for about 2 hours now. It actually has little bits of seaweed in it. This is from that vegan Korean cookbook I just wrote about on my blog, but it is awesome, cool recipe, and I thought I'd share. I just have my copy from the library, which I'm purchasing the cookbook soon, but I want to check it out, which I normally do. So recipes in there. I'll do a short write-up on my blog, which I'll link to as well, but this is a pretty standard white flour bagel dough. You can see it's got some nice elasticity. It is pretty stiff, but it's also very supple and it feels good to work with. Bagel dough is awesome because it's a little drier, and we want it to be drier, so it's a little more dense. The final bagel should be chewy, but it makes it really easy to work with. So the reason why I'm showing you this part is because I always think about final product when I'm doing my shaping. So I'm shooting for about 120 grams. I measured this whole thing. I'm getting 8 bagels out of it. But you can see right away, I have this laid out like this, and now I have my cut piece here. Now the last one, the end of this, will be a mix of these kind of little odds and ends. But even when I'm starting to cut and weigh, I want them to look sort of like this. And I'll do 2 weighed out pieces here. I'm just using my plastic dough scraper so I don't ruin my counters. That's close enough. Okay, so I have this. I'll finish weighing these out later, but I wanted to show this is actually perfect. So this right here is kind of a long shape, and this one is a little shorter. There are really 2 ways to shape bagels, and bagel purists will say that the only way is to do the hand rolled, which is you make a long rope, which I'll show you in a second. You wrap it around your hand, and then you get a nice bagel shape. The other way, which creates a little bit more of like a belly button style bagel, so rounder, less of a hole, and I'll make sure I show these after I cook them. But this is starting with a round shape, so not making a rope. Now, if you check this out, bagel and any sort of bread shaping is all about finding a seam and then kind of controlling a seam. So right away I got this smooth top here, and then on the bottom is where I'm going to have my seam. So I'm going here, and I'm kind of starting to create a really, really tight seam on the bottom. And I'm rolling around, almost making a C shape with my hand, and then pulling and pushing and working that seam so it all sort of bunches up on the bottom. That is for any sort of bun. Well, a lot of different shapes in bread baking, but if you think of this as like a small round, it's harder to do with a bigger like bowl, but you can do it. This is just for your classic bun. And you can see I got it all bunched up, so it creates a nice little seam right here. And then I'm going to go with my right hand here since I'm even more comfortable with that. I can just let this sit, and looks good. Super tight. What I'll end up doing is just poking a hole right here. Well, I might as well just do it now. And there you go. Now you have a bagel. I always go like this because it's going to work its way inward. Now back to the original idea that I was talking about is that this shape will want to stay in a circle. And you can see it pulling back in like this. This shape, because of the gluten and the elasticity of the dough, will want to stay long and skinny. And that's why starting like this, laying out your doughs with the idea of what you want it to be in the end is so important. So you can see this hole is already shrinking. As it rises, it's going to shrink more and more. So I'm going to just kind of stretch it out even wider than you think, trying to make it even. And that will be that. Knowing that this is going to pull in, you can already see it pulling in. And knowing that that hole is going to close up as the bread rises and then as I boil it and bake it. But it'll still want to stay in a round like this. So yeah, these are really pretty. I mean, the seaweed will be really fun. It's going to add some nice umami and flavor, be a little bit different. So I like this recipe so far. Now let's look at this hand rolled one. Well, I'll keep this over here. I have a pan on the side of the camera here where I'm going to put the final shaped ones. So for a long shape, this is really similar to a hot dog bun, a baguette, all sorts of things. There's really only two shapes in bread. They're rounds or they're long, and knowing when and how to use each one is really important. Now I'm going to do something a little different here because I want these to be dense. So I actually fold it in on itself just to create a little bit more structure. Really important here, not using any flour at all, letting that tension kind of build up between my work surface and the bread. That little bit of stickiness is super important. Now I'm going to fold it over itself and over itself and over itself. And again, all I'm doing is managing a seam right here and trying to create a seam on the bottom. So now I have a pretty good, well, other than I have this little hole here, which I'll just kind of sew up there. So now I have that seam nice and tight right on the bottom. So seam side and then smooth side. Now, when I was baking at a bakery, I used to struggle with doing what is called making dog bones. So look at that. It looks kind of like a dog bone. My baguettes would be small in the center and then thick at the ends, but pretty easy to fix. Instead of starting in the middle and working out, I'm going to work out and go to the middle. So now I'm going to go here. It doesn't need to be super long for a bagel. I can see this one end is kind of a little bit wider. Just trying to make it as even as possible. This side is still a little too thick. Working that side down. There, it's not bad. It's good enough. No pointed ends really on a bagel. Don't need that taper. Because then what I'm going to do is wrap it around my hand like this. Managing the seam. Tightening this up. And then doing... Oh, I got a little bit of a hole there. We'll work that out. Doing the hand-rolled style bagel, which is like this. So it goes around my hand. I kind of work it around. I try to find spots that are thicker and thinner, although it's never going to be totally perfect. That looks pretty good. So one of the trademarks of the hand-rolled bagel is this right here, and you'll see like if you go to anywhere that does hand-rolled bagels, a lot of them will have like this little split on the top where you can see the two ropes connecting each other. That's kind of a trademark appearance. But I'm not sure if there's a huge difference. I'm a bagel lover myself, and I know I've had many of both, and I don't know if there's a huge difference. There's something kind of romantic about this hand-rolled bagel, wrapping it around your hand, the old school technique. But this one tastes probably just the same. So there we go. I'll make sure I do a final video and show you what these look like. Again, this is the hand rolled one. You can see that little seam there. Looks good, pretty. This is the bun shape with the hole poked in the middle. Also pretty. And both will taste delicious. Okay, I'll check back in once these are baked off. All right, so these bagels have sat a good half an hour. This is one that is just a round with the hole in the center. I have my boiling water. I'll drop them in and they float, which tells me they're nice and airy and ready to go. Put all those in there at once. Just let them go for a minute on each side. This water has a little bit of brown sugar and baking soda in it, and then I'll flip them over. They really are just setting on the outside. It's actually like gelatinizing the starches, but that's what gives the bagel that distinct sheen and sort of shiny outside and chewy inside. So you can see they're expanding. That seam is on the bottom, very important. You can see that nice seam right there. And then we'll check out the other ones, which are the hand-rolled ones. So you can see there's a pretty good example of that hole sort of filling in, rising up around it. You'll see a little bit less of that with the hand-rolled ones. I put them right on a blank sheet tray because I think it absorbs less water than it does with parchment. Okay, so these are the hand rolled ones here. You can see they're a little goofier, a little bit rusty. There's a pretty good one there. And this is a very nice, even one. Look at that. You almost can't see that seam at all. It's ideal. But you can see that hole's just a little bit bigger. Pretty though. Really, really pretty. Cool recipe with the seaweed. Same thing. Let them go for a minute on each side and we'll pop them in the oven at 450 right away after this and finish them off. All right, pop these out. See, that one's looking a little goofy there, but these look nice. This is pretty traditional. That's kind of the look I'd go for, something like that. This one's also nice. You can see that hole just look quite a bit bigger. All right, those will go in the oven, 450 for a good 20 minutes total. You can see there, those are the belly button style, poking a hole in the round. And then at the top there, those are the hand rolled ones. All right, so these are the final bagels here. Look really nice. Awesome sheen on the outside. Decent rise in the oven, not as much as I was anticipating, but you can see that nice brown. There's no egg wash or anything on there. It's just how they look. Pretty cool looking bagel with the seaweed. Really nice, super shiny exterior, which is what you're always looking for. Bottom is nice brown too. But this is one that I just poked the hole through the center. You can see there's much less of a hole. It's much more like a bun. And I know some bagel people would consider this not a true bagel because that hole is not really even a hole. Basically it's closed up. This is the hand-rolled version here. A little thinner, not quite as much of a rise. There's that distinct seam right there that I was talking about. When you hand roll, a lot of times you get this sort of overlap of those two ends meeting. And then a little bit thinner, still a nice sheen on it. But a really fun bagel, a really cool experience with the seaweed there. And then I'll just slice this open and we can look at the inside here. So this is the belly button style bagel, as I like to call it. And pretty, super, super pretty. Really tight crumb. That's really exactly what you're looking for. Now let's try this one, which has a much bigger hole. Very, very carefully. I try not to destroy it. It's still soft here from just being baked. And almost identical. This is the crumb on the hand-rolled one. So nearly identical. You can see just a little bigger hole. Still would make a really good sandwich. This is the poke it through. You can see how small that hole is. It almost doesn't have a hole. So there you go. It's the seaweed bagel recipe from the Vegan Korean Cookbook, and I'm going to enjoy these. Thanks for watching.